Good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News Review, where we rate articles essential, important, and optional to help you navigate the mass of AI news that happen every day. The articles are at gaiinsights.com/articles. Please follow along, like us at X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other social platforms, and comment. Tell us what you think as we go along. Today we have 6 articles. I have John Sverkler, who is at the airport, Paul Baya, and Ankash to go through them and tell you what we think. All right, let's start with the first article. Ankash, please.
Sure, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from A16Z and talks about the amalgamation of AI and commerce.
Yeah, this is the issue of web traffic going from Google to AI platforms that we've discussed a number of times. And this is a positioning, I would say, paper from a well researched group of people. What did you think about this, John?
I was going to give this an important. The folks at A16Z have, basically reinvented a small piece of marketing. If you were taking a marketing course, and talked about the different kinds of consumer purchases and what the buying process is, and then related that to what it means for different players in the industry, in particular, Google, Shopify, and Amazon. And I think they rightfully say that, as you get into the more complex buys and so forth, that Shopify and Amazon are in a really good position to influence purchase. And that, so in the near term, they note that the predictions of Google's downfall are, premature, because if you look at their most recent earnings, ad revenue and overall revenue went up a bunch. So they continue to grow. So I thought it was a nice way to, integrate marketing thinking with the implications for the move from, search engine optimization to answer engine optimization, but certainly not essential. So I was going to give it an important.
Okay. Yeah, as you can see on the screen, and Ankash, if you go up a little bit, it's the 5 categories that they put the buys in: the impulse buy, the routine essentials, the lifetime purchases, and then functional purchases and life purchases like a house. And they go through and talk about how AI will change the buying pattern, really. And so that just for that alone, I agree with John. I think it's important. What did you think, Paul?
I agree. Important. It's definitely a growing category. We're seeing more and more executives understanding the radical change in the customer life cycle from discovery to vendor evaluation and product reviews. So important.
Okay. Ankash, we're going important. Anything to add?
Important for me as well, Luda. I think this provides a good framework for everyone, not only the AI vendors, but general enterprises as well, to think about how to use AI in their organizations, in their marketing organizations, right? So I think it's a good framework.
Okay.
Yeah, it does remind me that there are at least 4 or 5 areas where I'm amazed by how Silicon Valley is reinventing stuff that's already been done. So this is basically a very, very thin version of consumer marketing, which you can find in any consumer marketing textbook applied to search. Then, they're reinventing epistemology, although stupidly. They're reinventing morality without any basis. And I think industrial sales and, business to business selling is another thing they're reinventing. So anyway, I think there's a lot of fertile ground to take some known things, mix them with what we know about AI and robots, and really make a difference.
Yeah. Okay, important it is. Let's proceed, Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one comes from Anthropic and talks about how its Claude AI model can now handle longer prompts.
Right. So it's a 1 million token window, and Google has 2 million in Gemini 2.5 Pro, and Meta has 10 million token window in Llama 4 Scout. So what did you think about this, Ankash? How does this Anthropic one compares, or is it good, bad? What do you think?
Luda, I think it's an important announcement, but optional news, I would say. So it's a news just about increasing the context window. As they have told here, the previous limit was 200,000 tokens, and now the new limit is around 5 times that, and it's also more than double of GPT-5's context window. So I think it's an important step by Anthropic to help developers get more of their code within the Claude API or sent to Claude Sonnet 4, and they might get better results out of that. So good to know for anyone who is using Anthropic's models. But still between optional and important for this one. I think just small piece of news, important news, but overall the article is optional, I would say.
Right. So optional important from Ankash. What did you think, John? Unmute.
Sorry, I'm trying to save you airport noise. The optional for me, Anthropic had to say something basically with the new GPT-5 announcement. And so I think they just, looked around the office and said, what can we talk about? So optional.
Forever skeptic, Paul, don't you think? Look, I'm not as skeptical. It's also optional for me, but I think they have been working on techniques to actually use that bigger window more effectively. And there's lots of discussions about that a longer window can be very confusing, and LLMs are not particularly very good at processing all this content that we feed it, especially if it's not organized, right? So, but for coding, and that's very important for Anthropic, they've been really thinking about how to use it effectively. So for them, as Ankash pointed out, it's important, right? But overall optional. Paul, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a product announcement too. It's not even an everyday miracle. I'm expecting all the context windows to be lengthening here. So this is double optional.
Okay, double optional from Paul. Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one comes from Epoch AI and talks about how much power will frontier AI training demand in 2030.
Okay, this was assigned to me. And so this is a summary of a longer, essentially understanding of a projection, a model, if you will. So it's a paper that talks about 30-page paper that talks about the assumptions and how they created this model. But the overall results that our AI training would require 2.2 to 2.6 per year increase, and we'll get to something like 5% of our total demand, total consumption, power consumption in the US. So I think it's optional. There's nothing really new here. And as always, these models are questionable because they sit on the big sandcastle of assumptions. So optional for me. What did you think, John?
Yeah, optional as well. I thought you said it well.
Thank you. All right, Ankash?
Optional for me as well, Luda, but Paul shared something with us today, right? Sam Altman's tweet where he says that people are using reasoning models more. That means more token consumption, and that means more power consumption. So some of the estimates here, I think, might turn out to be lower estimates than the actual sort of use in 2030. So an important topic to think about. But yeah, optional news.
Yeah, Paul, going optional. They bake into this model the algorithmic optimizations at about 40%. So they're kind of taking into account the increase and also the ingenuity that's behind it. Paul, what did you think?
Yeah, optional as well. And I think GPT-5 is the milestone event that we're moved away from single models. I think all models going forward, Anthropic and everything else, are going to be multi-models. They're going to be cost optimization. There's going to be routing for things here. So this kind of single model and obsession of what exactly one's engine part is moving to a much more sophisticated multi-part engine here. And I don't think we actually know what the power implications of that are. But from the AI leader, this is should not be on the radar screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing, we've been predicting for some time that the eventual model for the large models will actually be a meta model that'll have at least 4 components. One will be a parser on the front end, which, if you think about what GPT-5 is doing, it's parsing and saying, okay, which model should this go to? Then you're going to have an environment that right now is dominated by large language models. So inside GPT-5, they're not using a lot of deterministic models, but we believe over time these will evolve to a combination of deterministic, non-deterministic models, and agents that'll be managing that. Then there'll be some kind of truth function at, okay, you say, okay, we need to check for hallucination on this. We need to do a lookup on this. We need to have explainability on this, right? So it'll package out, what is the truth function of the model, of the meta model, and then there'll be a post-processing presentation layer, if you will, that will come up. That's where a lot of the big models we believe are going to evolve to, and so we're just seeing more and more proof of that. And the drivers of that are things like the tailing off of scaling laws, the interaction between real world and symbolic world, where you have the mapping has to be more deterministic for certain activities. And I think just the expansion of adoption into industries where you need to be able to prove to some standard of truth what you're doing. So I really think that this is a natural evolution of the mega models.
Well, and John, I would even more, not just a mega model. I think this is a natural evolution of all software development.
Yeah.
All software development going forward here, Lou, has got some level of logic in it. It's going to have deterministic, probabilistic intelligence, and a whole variety of routing thing here. So,
and a whole variety of evaluation techniques to figure out whether the non-deterministic stuff. Yeah. Okay.
And we had that article. Sorry, we had that article yesterday about the truth. I forget the name of the agent that basically was looking at true, how accurate the answer was. That's Luna, was it? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
yeah, so there's a perfect example of one of the modules that's going to be in that future semantic operating system.
Yeah.
And it will be baked in, right? So you could actually use all kinds of, but it will be baked into the overall architecture. I think personally.
And if I can be self-serving, we call in our buyer's guide enterprise intelligence applications. So that's the category that's got all these different components under it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a stack. Okay, optional it is, however, the overall audience. Let's proceed, Ankash, please.
Well, and if I could just riff one more. So if you kind of think about that, Ankash, who actually wants an unintelligent enterprise application? My Excel is an unintelligent application. Why do I ever want to go back to the green screen unintelligent software world when I can always have software automation and whatever flavor I want that's got some level of intelligence in it? So,
except it comes with a lot of complexity. So if you can, I still maintain, if you can get a little deterministic piece of software that does your task very well and efficiently, do it. If your task requires thinking and complexity, then you might want to embrace the new wave, right?
So you tell me, when I go in my backyard and I'm gardening, sometimes if I just have a simple shovel, that might be sufficient rather than bringing a backhoe in to take out the weeds.
Exactly. And so I think it's like a new toy, right? Or a new thing. You get a set of tools in the garage, right? You want to try those tools, and that's what's happening. But eventually, you realize that you don't need a huge backhoe for this task.
Yeah, I just think that the lack of innovation and translating consumer and end user desires into technology has been so slow, and the vendors have had an interest in making things complicated. I think the pent up demand for intelligent simplification, even with a complex tool, is massive.
Yes, I agree. And we'll have actually an article here soon on reinforcement learning. That's one of their takeaways. Okay, let's mark it as optional. Proceed. Ankash, please.
Sure, Luda. So the next one comes from VentureBeat, and it's a case study about how TD Securities has tapped Layer 6 and OpenAI to deliver real-time equity insights to sales and trading teams.
Yes, John, are you in a position to talk through it?
Yes.
Or-
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Look, this is an incredibly important domain. Supporting equity analysts and so forth, and any kind of service folks in financial services, especially asset managers, is massive. This particular article didn't have any kind of real description of what the effect was in terms of economics or process or quality or speed. It just said basically they can process way more in support of these. So I was kind of disappointed. Super important area, an area we know a fair amount about and is a very important area. But I thought this was a very thin article in terms of either advice on how to proceed. The other day we went with the story of, I forget the company that had the hackathons and so forth, because we like the process, even though pardon me, what was it, Ankash? Agoda. Yeah. And we made that essential. On this one, I think we have none of those other reasons to upgrade it from optional. So optional.
Okay. Optional from John. Paul, what did you think?
I was on the other side, John. I actually valid all the points you had. I think, though, that if I'm an AI leader and I need use Tim's back pocket evidence that this is becoming real, in production, AI, probabilistic, in a regulated company for stock trading is a hallway talking point that I'd want the AI leaders there. So in that sense, I put that as essential in terms of awareness.
Yeah, that's what you mean.
Yeah, I wouldn't go essential, Paul. I would go important maybe, because they don't divulge what they have done.
Correct.
It's really a puff piece about we've done it, it's out there, and seems like people like it. Yeah, maybe. So that's so Ankash, we have a range here. What do you think? Optional to essential?
I was important on this, Luda. I think to Paul's point, it's a regulated industry, right? And it highlights how you can do things in a regulated industry that can yield results for you, but then lacks details like the AWS case studies that we are used to, right? So that's very important for me.
Yeah, they mentioned like they used RAG in certain places to create that foundational truth function, but no detail. It's disappointing.
Right.
Okay, well, but yeah, Paul, you make a good point. So let's do important on this one and proceed to the next one.
Okay, the next one comes from Liquid AI, and they have introduced Liquid Foundation Model 2 VL version, which is a more efficient vision language model.
Yeah, this was assigned to me. And I'm a little biased. This group comes out of MIT. I'm an MITer. But I particularly like the architecture. It's not the transformer architecture. And they have those short, so it's a combination of two things. It's the what they call short-term convolutional piece, and then long-term understanding. So with this short-term convolutional piece, what they do, they take a little window and they kind of draw it around on the data to figure out what are the local patterns in there and save it. And then before passing it to a longer, so as a longer term windows. So as a result, they have sort of the memorization and more depth in the understanding of the context baked into the architecture. So they are twice faster. And as a result, as you can see, beating in this article, they are beating the competition on the edge fast, and this is an introduction of the video text to, so if you give an image, it navigates it very well. So I think it's optional in general, but my personal opinion that architecture on the edge would beat the competition. So, but I think overall it's probably optional news for the rest. What did you think about this, Ankash?
I was important for this one, Luda. I think we don't have very many models which are vision language models and which can operate on the edge. So this can have great use cases in the manufacturing industry, right, or oil rigs and various other places where someone can just click a picture and ask the model that, okay, what do you think about this problem that I am facing, right? So I was important on this development.
Yeah, I'm certainly can back the important because there's not that many models that are multimodal, very efficient on the inference time, and can fully be on the edge. John, where were you?
Boy, you guys are moving me. I started with this is an article only a mother could love. It's I mean, the way it's argued is many of the points that you just made are not made in this article that I think would be important to make. I do agree with you that the novel architecture is important and for certain use cases they lead, but for many they don't. Um, I could support important in the context of that just because it introduces a new kind of model. But man, this article is really not well argued from what it delivers.
Yeah, yeah. I really think they will win on the edge. And Ankash has looked at other edge products for sure for the buyer's guide. So you're coming from very deeply informed folks. So let's do important to just highlight that this is a new architecture, that they focus on the edge. They're beating the other people focusing on the edge. And so it's good to know. All right, important it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the last one that we have for today is a research paper which talks about tricks or traps, a deep dive into RL for LLM reasoning.
Yes, Ankash. This is an interesting paper that talks about. It's not a taxonomy, but it's a review of all the reinforcement learning techniques, and for that reason, it's kind of interesting. I read it, but it's pretty technical. What did you think?
Yes, Luda. So I agree with you. It's a pretty technical paper. So what they have done is they have taken all the RL techniques that have come up till now in from various labs across various reasoning models, right? And they have tried to experiment or test those techniques with same set of models and same set of environments with same set of data to see which techniques are the best. And they then came at the result that two simplest techniques, the normalization part and token level realization. Those are the two techniques which just work, and you don't need to do a lot of this very I would say complex algorithmic practices to do reinforcement learning techniques. So this provides a good view that okay, the simple things can yield great results, but as you mentioned, too technical for an executive and maybe optional for that reason.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you can scroll down a little bit, and to when they go, here's the various RL techniques, and it's only a paragraph. Ignore the formula, but it goes describes why they use this technique and for what. So if you have been wondering about what reinforcement learning is about, this is a great primer, but probably optional. And then we talked about simplicity, like use the deterministic stuff that like Lucinda commented on, that you don't need LLMs if you don't, right? And here they arrive at, you can actually have two very simple techniques in combination that will do the job and do it better than other techniques. So it's simplicity wins sometimes. So what did you think about this, John?
Yeah, I started optional, but as you guys are talking about, I really think it's important. Look, reinforcement learning is such a vital, and seems to be a very, very fruitful, dimension. When you think back to, the original transformer work, a lot of that was reinforcement learning in the context of Go. You know what I mean? And using simulated data. So, like, this is a core technique. It's a great outline. Important is still, not required reading. But the other thing, Akash, is I don't think that we should assume that our reader isn't technical, and even if they are a business person, they should be held accountable for being technical. And I think we're seeing more and more. It's kind of like the early days of IT when you had executives, or at least somebody in the executive team, who really is deeply technical, because there's so many technical issues on the surface. You can't just trust the vendors to sort it out for you. So I think this is an important.
Ankash, would you go with important as a primer?
Sure, Luda.
Okay, all right, let's mark it important. I really felt that reinforcement learning actually had its issues, and so it wasn't really used until really DeepSeek. When DeepSeek used it to optimize the runtime dramatically, as we know, that's when it came forward. And then people started piling these little techniques on top of each other, and that became kind of a nightmare. So this paper, for technical folks, I think it's almost critical to understand where the world is, who is doing what, and this is what these folks did. They created an environment, and I think it's open, that you can test various RL techniques in combination, and in its sort of defined environment. So it's an attempt to do apples to apples, and that's why I think important is maybe a good rating.
Yeah, Luda, I do think that reinforcement learning was used in AlphaGo and AlphaFold.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's deeper than that. Yes, in terms of being a top level strategy issue and discussion issue for the large models, yes, came with DeepSeek, but really it goes back to really the true breakthroughs of the transformers.
All right. I mean, the reinforcement learning was defined. I don't know. I don't have the date, but I think it's 2015, something like that. So it's an old technique, but it had its quirks. It needs to be handled by experienced folks, I think. Okay.
Yes.
So we have Ankash, if you could prepare the scorecard. So we'll put important on this one. And John, we lost Paul. Any announcements? I see you made it to the airplane. That's wonderful.
Yes. Just the only announcement, if anybody's at the University of Kentucky today, I'm doing a speech over there on our WINS framework and what it means for organizations. But going to Cincinnati, the ground zero of consumer products. So it's great to be there and to meet up with some friends. And just encourage everybody to remember that our discount for our conference goes away in 2 days. So if you're coming to our conference and you want to get a $700 discount, you should book today, tomorrow, or Friday.
And by the way, and women who will attend the AI breakfast, they have a little bit more on top of that discount. So yeah, use it, please, by the 15th. And if you don't know about it, let me know. Write to me and I'll respond. So we have, for today, we have 4 importance and 2 optionals. I think we got a little bit of a scope creep here, but it's okay. Right. All right. Thank you all for listening and responding. Lucinda, Ashish, Valda, we really appreciate it, and your comments as well. We'll see you all tomorrow.